Hey guys, I'm Nerd Girl, and today we're going.
And I'm Brittany!
Go away.
Okay, I'll go away now. I'll let you record.
Hey.
Hi! Brittany!
Hey guys, I'm Nerd Girl, and well, today we are going. This week is all about our favorite Bible stories from the Old Testament. I chose, out of all of the stories that I could think of, honestly, my favorite is the story of Moses, which is in the book of Exodus. I'm focusing on is about, I'd say, the first 14 chapters. So it starts off when the new king came into power in Egypt. He was telling his people, the Egyptians, that the Israelites are becoming numerous. We need to oppress them so that they won't rise up and they won't join our enemies if they choose to go against us and stuff like that. So they had slave masters to oppress them and force them into labor. Every year they would obviously be more children. So at some point the Pharaoh said to the two midwives, I'm going to butcher these names, so I'm sorry. Shifra and Puah said that when they're helping a Hebrew woman during childbirth, that they are to kill the baby if it's a boy, but if it's a girl, that it should live. However, both of these midwives were so afraid of the Lord that they couldn't do it. When Pharaoh asked why they wouldn't do it, they said that the Hebrew women were very vigorous and they'd end up giving birth before the midwives had arrived. And so Pharaoh forgave the midwives for not being able to kill the infant for the boys. But later, Pharaoh gave an order to all of the people of Egypt that for every Hebrew boy that is born, you need to throw it into the Nile, but for every girl, they will live. And then there's the birth of Moses. When he was born, the mother kept him for 3 months, but then when she figured out that she couldn't keep him for that long without getting discovered, she put him in a basket and placed him among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile and found the basket and had one of her slaves go down to fetch what was in it, and it was Moses. Moses had a older sister. She was kind of standing by, and she went and fetched a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby, and the daughter said, if you nurse this baby and take care of it, then I will pay you. And as he grew older, she took Pharaoh's daughter took him as her son, and she named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. Moses had grown up. He went out to see where his own people are, and he saw an Egyptian beating a fellow Hebrew. Moses kind of looked around to make sure no one was watching, and he killed the Egyptian man and then buried him in the sand. Next day, two Hebrew men were fighting, and he asked, why are you guys fighting? One of the men said, who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian? And then Moses got scared and thought, oh, people know what I did. And when Pharaoh had heard of this, he attempted to kill Moses, but Moses ran. And he ran to live in Midian, and he sat by a well. The priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they were going to the well to draw water and get water for their father's flock. And there were some shepherds there that were trying to drive them away, but Moses rescued them and helped water the flock. And when the daughters returned to their father, the high priest of Midian, he said, why are you back so early? And they said, an Egyptian had rescued them from the shepherds, and he drew water for us and watered the flock. And he said, and where is it? Where is he? Invite him to come and have something to eat. Moses agreed to stay, and the priest had offered to give Moses his daughter Zipporah in marriage. And quick little fun side note, Zipporah is actually the inspiration for the makeup Sephora. Little fun side note. And then back in Egypt, the Pharaoh had died, and the Israelites were crying out. That's when God heard them, and he decided to take it upon himself to save his people. At this point, Moses is heading to Jethro, his father-in-law's flock, when he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, which is the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a burning bush. Moses noticed that the bush wasn't burning even though it was on fire, and he went over to see what exactly this was. And when the Lord saw that Moses was coming over, he said, "Moses, Moses," and he said, "Here I am." And he asked him to take off the sandals because he was standing on holy ground. And he was explaining, "I am the Lord your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face because he feared to look at God. And God said, "I've seen the misery of my people. I've heard them crying out, and I am concerned about their suffering. I've come down to rescue them from the hands of the Egyptians and bring them up out of the land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey." He's saying, "Now I'm sending you to Egypt to free my people." And Moses said, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you." Now Moses is kind of a little apprehensive, saying, "Well, even if I do go to them, who's to say that they'll believe me? What if they ask, 'What's his name?' What am I supposed to say?" He says, you need to tell them, "I am who I am." That is what you say to the Israelites. "I am has sent me to you." He's telling Moses, like, how you're supposed to tell the Israelites that I truly am the one that's wanting to bring you out of Egypt. So after all that, Moses, Aaron decided to go back to Egypt to free the slaves. God sends Moses to Pharaoh, and he was trying to tell Pharaoh that God has asked that you let his people go. But Pharaoh, being Pharaoh, he says no, and as punishment for asking such a thing, he punishes the slaves by no longer having the slave overseers giving them straw, but make them find their own straw to make bricks, and not to reduce their quota, so they won't be able to make their quota in time. And they ask, "Why are you doing this?" He says, "You guys are lazy," and he thinks it's preposterous to say, "Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord." When the Israelites realized that they were in trouble, they are upset with Aaron and Moses, saying, "You made us seem obnoxious to the Pharaoh, and now you've made our labor much more hard," asking basically why. And when Moses goes to talk to God, he promises to deliver them out of Egypt, but no matter what, Pharaoh's heart will still be hardened, even though they perform miracles. Again, Moses is saying, "Why should I go tell Pharaoh when I kind of flubber my words a little bit?" So God says, "Take Aaron with you, and he will help you. He will speak for you," kind of thing. And when they appear before Pharaoh, Aaron delivers the message. Pharaoh said, "Perform a miracle." Aaron was supposed to throw down the staff, and it would turn into a snake. However, Pharaoh wasn't impressed because he called for his wise men and his sorcerers, and they did the same thing. Now, at this point, this is when God calls down the plagues of Egypt. There are 10 plagues. I'm just going to go over the plagues real quick. I'm not going to go into too much detail. This video is already getting really long. The first is the plague of blood. Water in the Nile turns to blood, killing all the fish and making drinking water toxic. Plague of frogs, plague of gnats, plague of flies, plague on livestock, so killing off the livestock so the Egyptians can't obviously use their livestock for food and stuff. Plague of boils, plague of hail, plague of locusts, darkness. And the last one, which I'll go more in depth, is plague on the firstborn. This is when the Lord is going to call down the angel of death to take the soul of the firstborn child. The Israelites will not be unaffected by this unless on the 10th day of the month the man is supposed to take the lamb for the household and raise it, and on the 14th day members of the community of Israel must slaughter the lamb at twilight, and they take some of the blood, put it on the tops and sides of the door frames, and to eat the lamb. And then on that same night the angel of death will pass over, and if he sees the blood on the door frame, then he will pass over without taking the firstborn child. So after all the firstborn children, including the Pharaoh's son, has been taken at night, Pharaoh said, "Leave my people." Basically, he was telling them now that they can leave. To leave, go and worship their God, take the flocks and herds. There is more to that where they go through the sea when Moses parts the sea and all that, but this is getting really long, so I'm going to just kind of end it there. But kind of the reason why I like this story so much is this is the first story that I ever kind of got exposed to when it came to the Bible, because I didn't grow up in a religious home. And I never put this together until middle school. If you've ever heard or seen the movie Prince of Egypt, it's an animated movie about Moses and a lot of this. It's not completely concrete. There's a lot of stuff that aren't exactly correct, but some of the stuff is still pretty much the same. A lot of the characters are still the same. It's just obviously the dialogue and the way the story goes was told a little differently, but I still think it's a really good movie, so I do recommend that you watch it. And I guess just growing up with that, when I read the Bible and I realized it was a Bible story, I thought it was really cool. The thought of being called to free a lot of people from slavery, that's not obviously an easy thing to do, but Moses managed to do it, Moses and Aaron. And they were able to gain freedom for the Israelites. I don't know. That's why it's like my favorite story, mostly for the movie, but also just because of the story behind it. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Leave some comments down below, and I will see all of you in the next video. Bye-bye!